The morning I pulled my truck up to the familiar dusty road that led to my farm, I was expecting nothing more than a routine drive through the open countryside, but instead I was greeted by something that made my blood boil instantly. Right there, across the only road that connected me to my property, stood a giant steel gate welded shut so tight it looked like it had been installed to keep out an army. I slammed the brakes, dust rising around me, and just stared in disbelief. This wasn't some flimsy barrier someone could move out of the way, it was permanent, deliberate, and designed to send a message. And standing right behind it, with that smug smirk plastered across her face like she had just pulled off the greatest scheme of her life, was none other than Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the local HOA. She folded her arms and tilted her head with that condescending grin I'd seen too many times before, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Karen and I had never seen eye to eye. She hated me for one simple reason: I wasn't under her HOA's rule. My farm sat just outside the boundary of their fancy gated community, which meant she had no control over what I did with my land, my house, or my lifestyle. I raised crops, kept livestock, and enjoyed the freedom that came with living outside their endless list of ridiculous rules. And for Karen, that was unacceptable. She thrived on power, on telling others what they could and couldn't do, and it infuriated her that she couldn't dictate a single thing about me or my property. But this move, blocking off the only road to my farm, was something even I didn't expect. I rolled down my window and demanded, "What the hell is this?" She didn't flinch. Instead, she raised her chin like she was delivering a royal decree and said, "This road belongs to the HOA. If you want to use it, you'll have to start paying monthly dues just like everyone else." My jaw dropped. The audacity of this woman was unbelievable. That road was mine. I had the original deed that came with the property, clearly stating the access road belonged to my land. It wasn't community property. It wasn't HOA controlled. It was legally mine. I told her as much, but she just laughed in my face like I was some clueless fool. "Paperwork can be forged," she said with a sneer, "but power is real. And I've got the power." My patience snapped right then and there. "You can't do this," I barked back. "That road is my legal access. You weld a gate across it, you're breaking the law." But Karen was drunk on her own arrogance. She leaned closer to the bars of the gate, smirked, and whispered like she was sharing a dirty little secret, "Go ahead, call the cops. See how far that gets you. Around here, the HOA runs everything." The way she said it made my skin crawl. She genuinely believed she was untouchable, like she was above the law itself. And to make matters worse, she doubled down on her threat. She pointed. For weeks after that confrontation with Karen and her smug steel gate, I found myself pacing back and forth at night, unable to sleep, my mind buzzing with frustration and strategy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smug look on her face as she leaned against the gate and told me I would have to pay her HOA dues to access my own land. The audacity of it, the pure arrogance, lit a fire inside me. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was determined. And if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that when someone tries to box you in, you don't bang your fists against the walls, you find a way around them. So while Karen bragged around the neighborhood about how she had cut off the farmer, I started planning something she never in a million years would see coming. I didn't waste my time filing complaints with the county because I knew she'd drag it out with lawyers and paperwork. I wasn't about to let my crops rot while I fought a long legal battle. No, I needed a solution fast, one that would not only give me access to my farm but also teach Karen a lesson she'd never forget. That's when the idea hit me: if she was going to block my road above ground, I'd build a new one underground. A tunnel. It sounded insane at first. Who digs a tunnel just to reach their own property? But the more I thought about it, the more sense it made. I had old construction buddies who owed me favors, guys who knew how to shore up beams and move dirt without leaving a trace. I had the tools, the land, and the determination. And best of all, Karen would never expect it. She thought she had me trapped, but she had no idea I was already working on my escape. I called up two of my closest friends from back in the day, Mike and Ron. Both of them had worked with me on heavy construction projects years ago, the kind of jobs where we had to dig trenches, lay pipes, and reinforce tunnels. When I told them what Karen had done, they both laughed in disbelief. Mike shook his head and said, "That's the most HOA thing I've ever heard. Count me in." Ron added, "If she wants a war, let's give her one." That night, under the cover of darkness, we gathered near the property line where the road cut across the HOA's land. We chose a spot hidden behind some thick trees where no nosy neighbor would notice us digging. Armed with shovels, picks, and an old generator-powered ventilation fan, we started carving into the earth. The first few days were brutal. The soil was heavy, and we had to reinforce every few feet with wooden beams to keep it from caving in. But every swing of the shovel fueled my determination. This wasn't just about building a tunnel anymore, it was about beating Karen at her own game. She thought she had trapped me, but I was going to outsmart her. Every night we worked, we moved quietly, covering the entrance with tarps and brush during the day. We hauled out dirt in barrels, dumping it discreetly into low spots on my property where no one would notice. Slowly but surely, the tunnel grew longer, inching toward the other side where my farm awaited. And as the days turned into weeks, the satisfaction of knowing I was beating Karen in secret kept me going. About 3 weeks in, we finally broke through. I'll never forget the moment I drove my truck through that tunnel for the first time. It was rough, tight, and bumpy, but when I came out on the other side and saw my field spread out in front of me, I felt like I had just reclaimed my freedom. I wasn't trapped anymore. I wasn't at her mercy. I had found my own way. The next morning, Karen nearly had a heart attack when she saw my truck parked in my field like nothing had happened. She stormed over, red-faced, demanding, "How did you get here?" I leaned against my truck, arms crossed, and simply said, "You blocked my road, so I made my own." Her jaw dropped. For once, she didn't have a comeback. But while the tunnel solved my immediate problem, what happened next changed everything. One evening while expanding part of the tunnel to make it safer, Mike struck something with his shovel that clanged instead of thudding. We cleared the dirt and realized we had uncovered a pipe, except it wasn't supposed to be there. Curious, we followed the line and discovered multiple pipes crisscrossing beneath the HOA's land. At first, we thought it was just old infrastructure, but then we noticed something odd. The pipes had been tapped into with crude connectors, rerouting water in a way that didn't look official at all. Ron, who had experience in municipal construction, whistled and said, "This is bad. These lines look like county supply. Somebody rerouted them illegally." The more we dug, the more we found. Dozens of pipes leading straight into the HOA's neighborhood fountains, sprinklers, and luxury landscaping features. That's when it clicked, the HOA had been stealing water. They were literally siphoning from county water lines to keep their neighborhood looking pristine without paying the massive bills that came with it. It wasn't just wrong, it was criminal. Suddenly, my little tunnel project had turned into something much bigger. I realized I was sitting on evidence that could not only bring down Karen's little empire but expose the corruption of the entire HOA board. I snapped photos, took notes, and documented everything. Every illegal pipe, every reroute, every connection they had no business making. My buddies and I knew this was dynamite. With this kind of proof, the county would have no choice but to act. I felt a rush of excitement. Not only had I beaten Karen by outsmarting her blockade, but I had also stumbled onto the very corruption she had been hiding. And soon, the entire world was going to know the truth. When I finally had the evidence in my hands, I knew the tide had turned. Up until then, Karen thought she had me beat, thought her welded gate had forced me to bow down to her HOA's power, but she had no clue that I was about to flip the script and expose everything. The photos of the pipes, the rerouted water lines, the clear proof that the HOA had been stealing from the county, it was like holding dynamite in my pocket. All I had to do was light the fuse. I gathered the evidence into a neat package, labeled each photo, wrote down exact locations, and even recorded a short video inside the tunnel showing where the pipes connected. Then I sent it all directly to the county inspector's office. I half expected them to brush me off, but within 48 hours, things exploded. County trucks rolled into the HOA neighborhood early one morning, catching everyone off guard. Inspectors, officials, and even a couple of sheriff's deputies showed up with clipboards and cameras. They didn't bother knocking politely, they started digging near the community fountains and landscaping areas, and within minutes, they hit the illegal lines. Residents peeked through their windows in shock as crews ripped up their manicured lawns and exposed the truth. I watched from my property, arms folded, as chaos unfolded across the street. Karen, of course, stormed out in her bathrobe, shouting at the inspectors to leave immediately. She waved her arms like a wild woman, screaming that they had no authority to be there, but the deputies shut her down fast. One of them actually warned her that interfering with an investigation could land her in jail. That was the first time I saw fear flicker across her face, and I'll admit, it was a beautiful sight. The inspection went on for hours, and the deeper they dug, the worse it got. They found multiple illegal connections, some running right beneath the HOA clubhouse, others hidden behind fake utility boxes. It was a full-scale operation, not some little mistake. The HOA board had knowingly approved this, all to save money while passing the costs on to regular taxpayers. By the afternoon, the county had enough evidence to slam the entire HOA with fines. Word spread like wildfire. Neighbors came out whispering, pointing at the pipes piled up on the ground, realizing their precious fountains and green lawns had been maintained with stolen water. The smug pride that community always carried vanished in an instant, replaced with embarrassment and anger. Later that week, the county officially announced the penalties, over $200,000 in fines, plus criminal charges for several board members, including Karen. She tried to spin the story, of course. At the emergency HOA meeting, she stood in front of her community and blamed it all on contractors, claiming she had no idea what was happening. But the county's documentation told a different story: emails, signatures, approvals that had her name all over them. She had been at the center of it, and now she couldn't escape. The look on her face when the news cameras showed up was priceless. Reporters shoved microphones at her, asking if she had anything to say about the theft of public resources. She sputtered and tried to walk away, but not before one neighbor shouted, "You ruined this whole neighborhood, Karen." The very people she used to lord her power over were turning on her. As for me, the county also sent me a written confirmation that the road leading to my farm was legally mine and mine alone. They ordered the HOA to remove the welded gate immediately. The day the workers came with cutting torches and sliced through that steel barrier, I stood there watching, grinning ear to ear. Karen was there too, standing off to the side, her arms crossed tightly, her face pale with humiliation. She didn't say a word this time. She had lost. And she knew it. The victory was more than just getting my road back. I had shown her, the entire HOA, and everyone watching that you can't bully people into submission just because you hold some fake title and think you run the world. They had tried to trap me, and in the process, I uncovered their corruption and tore it down. The cherry on top came a month later when the county sent notices to every resident in the HOA, informing them that their fees were going up to cover the massive fines. The same neighbors who once defended Karen were now furious, demanding her resignation and swearing they'd never trust another board again. She was banned from ever serving on an HOA board, stripped of her so-called power, and left with a ruined reputation. And me? I went back to farming, free and clear, driving down my road every day with a smile on my face, knowing no one could ever block me again. The tunnel remained too. I kept it reinforced and hidden, a reminder of the fight I had won, a secret victory carved into the earth. Whenever I walked through it, I felt a rush of pride, not just because I had beaten Karen, but because I had proven that determination and clever thinking can outmatch arrogance and corruption any day. People around town still talk about it. Did you hear about the farmer who dug a tunnel to beat the HOA? It became a local legend, and honestly, I don't mind. If my story gives someone else the courage to stand up to bullies, then it was worth every shovel of dirt. In the end, Karen wanted to trap me, silence me, and force me under her control. Instead, she ended up trapped by her own greed, exposed for the whole county to see. I didn't just win back my farm road, I won back my freedom, my peace, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes, when you push the wrong man too far, he won't just fight back. He'll dig deep, and he'll bring the whole truth to light.